happening, everybody? My name is Julius, and I'm here with
Angel.
Angel. It's time to start off October fresh.
Woo!
In the last couple of days, everything's kind of been slow and weird and worrying, but October is the day of true horror. Not like societal, political horror, but horror movies. Halloween, son. Yeah, look at that. Ghostface. We're here to cheer people up with some of the most frightening films daily. And we're going to be posting every single day of October a different discussion about a different horror movie. Now, if this sounds familiar, if you're OG goats, you'll know that a couple years ago we did this same series called the 31 Days of Horror, where we talked about different horror movies every day of October, and we're doing it again this year. It's called the 31 More Days of Horror. So we're here. We're going to get started. But before we get started on our films, Angel, I mean, I already know how you feel about horror movies, but get people, more situated with your feelings on horror films.
Basically, so horror movies really
it's a magic trick. It's a magic trick.
They speak to me on a personal level. Let me tell you a little bit about that.
Angel, put that knife down. You're gonna hurt yourself. Try to make a point.
No, I love horror movies so much, and it's my favorite genre, specifically because that's all I would watch at my grandma's house. So they really resonate with me on an emotional level, and they're just a lot of fun. I love watching them, and I think they're really the most effective at allowing us to look at ourselves in the mirror and be able to reflect to a point where we really can change to fix the horrors and atrocities of the world. And also, I feel like they really are the epitome of cinema in terms of entertainment. When we go on a roller coaster, what do we feel? We feel butterflies. We feel chills. We feel scared. We love to scream. It feels cathartic.
Yeah.
That's exactly what horror movies are all about. If you get a really excellent horror film, like the horror films we're going to be discussing for the next 31 days, which is very exciting. I'm so happy that you put that together. We have some incredible guests coming in and sharing their commentary on horror movies, some of the best of the decade, some of the best of, the past 100 years. So I'm really privileged to be a part of this. Thank you so much for putting this together.
Of course.
I could talk horror movies all day. Like, they are literally my religion. I will worship demonic forces. You know what I mean?
Satanist. You're a Satanist. That's your problem. You're a Satanist.
Within the frame.
Don't read comics. Don't listen to Black Sabbath. Don't watch Freddy Krueger because you're a Satanist.
Yeah, man. So I love horror movies with all my heart. And like I said, it really does feel cathartic. We get to feel emotions that we don't normally feel on a daily basis. We feel happiness. We feel sadness. We feel tension and drama in our daily life. We feel stress. But with specific horror movies, we really feel an emotion that we normally don't, which is heightened fear, right? Let me give you an example. If you watch something like Scream and you're invested in that story and you follow these characters who are trying to outrun a serial killer slasher Ghostface, that is like
Ghostface killer.
That's something that we don't normally get to experience. And that feeling of tension when it controls your body, by the end of it, when it's released, it's really peaceful. And you can look back at that experience and just understand how much you enjoyed it. You know what I mean? And when you rewatch something like Scream, it's even more fun because you know exactly when the scares are coming. You know exactly when the twists are coming. So it really is the embodiment of a thrill. That's what I love about horror movies, and I will always support them, and I will always watch them in theaters no matter what first, because that's the right way to experience it. I really do think it is the true form of a visual spectacle.
I think it's interesting that you bring that specifically up because we have films that we're going to be talking about where I kind of disagree on that, the visceral experience of the theater, because I think there are some films that benefit from being at home, where you could it would be similar to a 4D experience when you're seeing Shrek 4D. You're actually in the place watching but we'll get into more of the details of that. But I certainly agree that there are certain movies that you need to watch. Once theaters come back, once we're able to do podcasts physically actually be in front of each other in front of mics. I think we can definitely agree and bring up plenty of films that need to be released and re-released in the theaters that are horror. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
some of the best cinema is horror. Think
Oh
of The
yeah.
Shining, think
100%.
of Alien, think of Halloween and The Exorcist. These are
Yeah.
films that utilized what you're talking about, the fear aspect of humanity, and brought us different types of, all those movies are so different, but they're
Yeah.
achieving the same reaction from us as viewers, and it's incredible.
Absolutely. And think about how hard it is to actually scare someone when they're watching something that's fictional, something that's totally
Yeah.
completely fabricated. The ability to able to raise somebody's hairs on their skin is
Yeah.
that's movie magic to me. That really is movie magic. That's when an emotion through a movie is able to transcend and actually impact somebody where it can either break them down or actually lift them up in spirits and be like, whoa, this is movie magic. This is how you make something. That's exactly what it is. And every horror film that I watched on VHS or DVDs,
Including
Blu-rays
VHS.
first, including VHS, every movie that I've seen, like when I watched Stanley Kubrick's The Shining, it was at my grandma's house on VHS on one of the square box TVs.
Yeah.
When I watched it for the first time in theaters for, what was it? I believe it was an anniversary, I believe 2 years ago. When I saw it on the big screen for the first time, it was a completely different experience. I had seen that movie, 10 plus times. And when I saw it on the
Yeah.
big screen for the first time, I felt like I truly experienced the movie. I caught details that I had never caught before. Like Jack Nicholson's character, Jack, when he's interviewing and you notice his tie. His tie is knitted in a way where it's similar to the maze that he's obsessed with, the wedge haze. That's a detail I've never caught before, and I was able to see it on the big screen. It was crazy. It's the craziest thing. It's the movie that keeps on giving. I guarantee every movie that you see, for those that think there's movies that are superior at home, I can't think of any movie that I've seen that is not better when experienced at a movie theater. I can't.
We'll see, man.
Superman the movie. Come
we'll
on.
We'll debate.
Superman the movie.
Brian,
Come on.
What's your name?
How
Angel.
many times?
Angel. you were used. The thing is, you were used to that letterbox shit on VHS. You watched it 70 millimeter, but a movie like Unfriended was not shot in 70 millimeter.
Oh man, don't even get me started.
Yeah, it was, Julius. Yeah, 70
Unfriended on the
millimeter
big
film,
screen.
baby. Christopher Nolan directed Unfriended.
Unfriended on the big. That's how I experienced it. That's probably why I loved it so much. Why I love Unfriended so much. Richard Donner, Superman the movie, the director of The Omen. Richard Donner,
which I should have
Superman the movie.
included. Which I should have included, but there's always next year because there
is always
amounts
next year
of horror movies. I mean, some people get pissed throughout the series and be like, "Hey, that movie's not on." There's always next year, folks. Yeah. When we can actually go out trick or treating. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But like to our experience, when we saw Superman the movie, how many times have we seen that movie? Hundreds, right? We see it on the big screen. It was life-changing. It was life-changing. It was literally life-changing. We see it and we're like, wow, we're actually seeing it for the first time.
He didn't punch nobody though.
He didn't punch nobody. Like, I envy the people who were able to see movies like Superman the movie in the 70s, The Exorcist, to see it on the big screen and really just experience it for the first time. That, like, I always envy those experiences, and that's why I always encourage people to go out to the movie theaters. Of course, when it's safe. Right now it's not.
Right. No. You don't need to see that Bill Murray, Rashida Jones movie in theaters right now. You don't need to see that shit. You didn't even need to see Tenet, honestly, when it came out. Okay? We can wait. We can wait. We got streaming services. It's proof that we can wait, right? It's episodes worth of proof of waiting. Watching, then waiting.
Right.
God damn it.
Right. So don't get out.
Don't get out. Get in. Speaking of which, our first film that we're going to be talking about in this series is Get Out from 2017, directed by Jordan. Man, I remember when that movie came out and we were just messaging, calling each other, and sometimes we would open up the conversation. Yeah, get out! Get the fuck out! One time, it's funny. I actually went to this birthday party up in Altadena, with my other friend and we're both Mexican. We're of the darker complexion compared to the people who were throwing this party.
Hmm.
And it was catered with Mexican food. And we were maybe,
Oh,
including the catering staff, we were maybe 4%. It was 4% Mexican in this whole party, including the catering staff. And there came a point. There came a point where I was trying to get some of the food, some food like in the pot that wasn't catered.
yeah.
And the hostess of this party, she was a grandmother who I had known, but she yelled, "That's not for you. That's not for you." And she's yelling at me, and then I'm like, "Oh shit." And then the guy, the caterer,
Yeah.
he's like speaking Spanish. Oh, no señora, no señora. And he's just standing there as if he was Lakeith Stanfield in that moment when the phone flashed. He stood there for a second at first, like,
Yeah.
and then he rushed at me to close the pot.
Damn.
It was my food. It was my food, and I couldn't have it. White people, man. That's what I'm talking about. This is what this movie's about, all right?
Yeah. This movie was not a good look for white people.
No, not at all. They're feeling bad. They're feeling bad. This is Joe Biden's favorite movie. I mean, come on. So I keep calling you Brian. I'm sorry, Angel. What is Get Out about? Tell the people, what you thought about it at first, when you saw the trailer, and what you thought about it when you came out of the theater. So what is it?
Yeah, so Get Out is basically what I think is an instant classic in the horror genre. I love it so much. I think Jordan Peele, known for his hilarious comedy skit show, Key and Peele, was able to really show his range as a creative head and wanted to show his passion for horror. And that's exactly what he did with Get Out. Get Out is essentially about, a young African-American going to visit the parents of his girlfriend.
His white girlfriend.
So you could just end that sentence there and just understand what you're about to expect. It is a horror comedy, beautifully expressed in both genres. The way he was able to blend both of them was excellent. The main character has this uneasy feeling that the way he's being perceived is awful. And we get to see that in the movie to its very, tipping point. And it really is outstanding. I love this movie, Julius. I'm telling you, I love Get Out.
Yeah.
We saw it, I believe, together.
I went to see it with Malcolm.
Okay, so then you're not my friend anymore. And I saw it with...
Hey, you didn't see it with any...
No, I probably saw it with my brother and my loved ones. But no, me and Julius watch movies all the time together at theaters when
well, not anymore.
Normal,
not anymore.
And those are my favorite.
Those were the days, Angel.
Those are the days. Those are the best days, and hopefully we do return to that. But
when
I saw Get Out,
with this, the theater experience was insane. I don't know if it was for you, but for me, it was like everyone was like, "Oh shit!"
Oh, dude, it was an absolute riot. It was an absolute riot. It's exactly what I love about horror movies. It had everything that I love about horror movies, from the narrative to the performances to the experience. All three of those were checked. So this movie really was outstanding. And I was rereading my written review for the movie a couple of days ago, and it made me realize how actually layered this movie is thematically, especially with themes and undertones of racism and white supremacy. And I love that horror movies are able to do that. They're able to take something that is a real horror, like racism, which is a real fear, a true horror of real life.
Especially right now, man.
And exactly. Very prevalent right now. Yeah. Just get out and go outside and you can see it, all around you. But I love that Jordan Peele was able to take that and make it a metaphor for this horror movie, and was able to make that a driving force for this picture, because he was able to do it in such a unique and refreshing way that this movie really is just an emotional ride that is very unexpected and really gets you thinking, holy crap, what would you do in this situation? And you really care for these characters. You want them to get out. One of my favorite lines in the movie is actually when the dad says, I would have voted for Obama
Oh,
for a third term. You know what I mean? And that to me is
best president of my lifetime.
yeah, that to me is
Hands
really
down.
the scene of Get Out. Because
Mhm.
when you think about it, what is the white father doing? He's connecting with, I believe his name was Chris, the main character.
Yeah.
He's connecting with the main character's skin color. And that is a very mild form of racism, right?
Yeah.
Something that can branch out to become something much more sinister. So by connecting to someone's skin color, it actually prevents us from connecting to people who are it prevents us from connecting to people beneath their skin color. You know what I mean? And I think
Yeah.
that's really that's what we can get from Get Out, which I really love. That I can't think
Yeah.
of any other horror movie that does that, other than maybe Night of the Living Dead from George Romero. But yeah, Get Out to me really stands out as
12
something
Years a
that's very
Slave,
peculiar. Yeah,
Django
12
Unchained.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
Those
Movies
are
that
horror
aren't horror
movies, in my
movies.
opinion.
Yeah, those are horror movies. To be honest.
I mean, I love what you brought up about Bradley Whitford's character, the father, because I mean, it's very clear that these people are left. They lean more left. They're just psychopaths who, and it shows. Jordan Peele, I think, shows his open-mindedness when it came to racism, and also his non-partisanship when it came
Yes.
to it,
Very good
because the main villains aren't these like hicks from the South, right? I
Right.
think they're in New York, aren't they? I mean,
Yeah,
or
I
around
think
that
so.
area, upstate.
Yeah.
They're in a very secluded, white neighborhood. It's
Mhm.
not even really a neighborhood because it's just land, endless amounts of land that they own,
Yeah.
and it's indistinguishable because it doesn't really get heavily into the politics,
Mhm.
but I mean, prejudice is prejudice, and then these guys take it to the next extent. And I don't even think it's fully out of hatred. I think it's out of fear for their own demise.
Right.
These rich people, and also I mean, I'm sure hate's a part of it for some of the characters, especially
The brother.
the brother. Yeah, the brother
Yes.
one,
Who
and
I think
even
would be an incredible Joker, by the way, for Robert Pattinson's Batman.
he's shit that fool Scarecrow in this movie.
Yeah, man.
Get
That
outta
scene when
here.
he's like, I love making them fight and watching them. They're so
Yeah.
athletic. Like, Jesus, man.
Yeah.
Chill, bruh. Someone spank this guy.
I think someone's big. This guy. There's that scene with the daughter when she's revealed to be kind of this like psychotic woman. She's looking
Oh,
up
man.
interests of the NAACP.
Oh,
It's like
man, yeah.
methodical, disturbing.
Yeah.
It's wild, man. And I think
Absolutely.
it's a very fair and balanced, ironically, film and perception of Jordan Peele.
Absolutely. And I love that you brought up that this is a movie that is non-biased, actually. The point of this is not to showcase which political party is kind of doing this.
These are the bad guys. No, they are the
Yeah.
good guys.
Yeah, exactly. I love that about this movie. And
Mhm.
I'm glad that you brought that up because I think it's very important for people to know that movies sometimes don't have to take sides. They just have to reveal what's actually going on. And what's actually going on is that on this line, whatever side you're on, racism, hatred, feelings of jealousy, those are everywhere. There's those kinds of people in whatever party you're in.
Yeah.
The problem is this ideology of racism and thinking that you are superior to others based on skin color. That in itself is horrific and a disease and something that needs to be weeded out. And I love that Jordan Peele was able to do that in a way where I don't think it will offend anybody on either side. It'll just make them aware that, hey, I know someone like that. Whether you're liberal, whether you're Republican, whether you're Democratic, we as individuals can overcome hatred and racism.
Well, I think even in this film, because it turns more into like a horror science fiction film by the end.
Yes,
with
which is
the
very
brain
ingenious.
transplants.
Very ingenious.
The characters who are the racists in this, just based on their actions, like I said, I don't think it's 100% out of hatred. It's out of envy a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, there's the scenes where they're feeling him. They're going on these very outdated prejudices saying,
Absolutely.
oh, you're physically more competent I mean, you can jump higher, you can run, you're faster, stronger, and
Yeah,
all that type of shit. And
absolutely.
I'm old and weak and fat and disgusting and
Yeah,
gluttonous. I want to be like your people who are better. You
yeah,
know what I mean? And it's
yeah,
just, it's so backwards the way that they're approaching him, you know?
yeah. I actually love that you brought that up too, because when I first saw it, one of my other favorite scenes was when Bradley Whitford's character was looking at himself when he was a track star, and he was like,
Back when he was
I
on the West Wing.
yeah, he was like, I almost came in first, but somebody beat me, you know. And the person that beat him was an African American athlete who was superior to him in running. So
Who
I
doesn't
love,
think about the Olympics back in World War II with that
yeah,
shit? You
yeah,
know?
exactly. And I love that undertone of jealousy. And I feel like that's something that we don't talk about in the conversation of why racism exists.
Yeah.
The usual answer is because of hatred, the
Right.
feeling of hate, the antithesis of love. But what if it's more than that? And if we're
Right.
able to actually accept that the emotion of jealousy and envy is part of the problem, then we'll be able to solve it. So I loved that idea being presented in the movie, because for me, I feel like I had never actually thought of that. Is envy a part of it? Is jealousy a part of why people want to be superior to others? Is it because of our flawed innate nature that makes us want to own people and abuse power? Yeah, probably. So how do we solve that? Well, Jordan Peele doesn't really give us an answer, but
Right.
he showcases the issue,
Yeah.
which I really think is brilliant. You can watch this movie and catch new things every time. It's such a rewatchable film. You can pick up new details, and it makes it more rewarding as a horror film. And it's rare that a horror movie can do that. Let me give you an example. When you
Please.
brought up the girlfriend character, when we do find out that she is this just twisted person, I never,
Everyone
I,
in my theater was like, "Bitch!"
yeah, exactly.
I said,
I said, bitch. Yeah, exactly. When you see her, like Polaroid collection of all the black males that she has, kidnapped
and females.
and enslaved, and females, dude, this is one crazy chick.
I was
bro.
waiting for Keegan Michael Key to show up in that. Honestly,
No, dude, he really should have.
him smiling.
I really think he should have put Key in this movie, man. I really do. I think that would have been really funny, especially because it's so critically acclaimed. And, I really do think Key and Peele, they bounce off of each other, and they really lift each other up creatively.
Yeah,
I really would have loved to have seen him cameo in this. But like a certain detail I was talking about was when she's eating her cereal.
Oh
The
yeah,
white milk and the
the
Fruit
cherries
Loops,
or the cherry.
the Fruit Loops,
Fruit Loops,
separated from the milk. The Fruit Loops are colored. The milk is white. They're separated. Details like that, which were pointed out to me on a second viewing, you can continuously pick stuff up like that. You know what I mean? There's great foreshadowing in the movie as well. Like when the
Excuse me.
bless you, when one of the workers is running in the middle of night.
Yeah.
And the main character's like, what the hell? Why is he running at me? Well, it's because, what was it? The grandfather who was in that
He was the
body?
grandfather.
It was the grandfather. So Bradley Whitford's character, when he was looking at a picture, it was actually his grandfather that he was looking at, I think. He was like, yeah,
okay.
my grandfather lost, in
I have
World
to
War
say,
II.
I don't
think,
remember.
like that.
Picture young Bradley Whitford in that.
Yeah,
His crazy ass hairdo.
yeah. So it's details like that you can pick up on a second view that make it so much more fun to watch as well, and really shows you kind of how brilliant it was all constructed.
Yeah, I mean, it was an incredible, like, directorial debut. I mean, for him to have taken a lot of the inspiration, and I'm sure he directed a bunch of the skits on Key and Peele, because a lot of the skits on that, aside from the comedy, the atmosphere of a lot of those skits kind of matches Get Out, because there are a lot that are horror based, in terms of the skits. Like there's one where they're stuck in a like a killer's basement, like a locker or a freezer or something, and like the cinematography is pretty on point. That's one thing that Key and Peele, I think, was really inspired in, was the filmmaking quality, because they have certain ways of directing the camera, musical cues, editing points that I think are really brilliant and on
Oh, yeah.
point. And I think I'm sure that Peele directed a lot of that, and that's how he got a lot of his inspiration and his experience when it came to Get Out. Right? I mean, just think of
Absolutely.
how many first-time directors they come out with something like this that hit as big as this. It does.
Mhm.
It doesn't happen like that,
Yeah, it doesn't happen very often. I mean, the only recent example I can think of is also John Krasinski's A Quiet Place, which I thought was a phenomenal horror film
Tim
directorial
Miller with
debut.
Deadpool.
Yeah, Tim Miller with Deadpool,
Yeah.
which is excellent, and my appreciation for that film has grown so much more, especially after seeing the second one when he departed. I don't know. I just did not enjoy the second Deadpool at all. I thought the first one was very concise.
It's superior.
Yeah, way superior. Like, it's clean. The editing is on point.
The narrative
humor.
is there. It doesn't go back on itself thematically.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. And I hate it when movies do that, when they backtrack on brilliance,
Yeah.
So yeah, that first Deadpool, absolutely insane.
Goat.
But for Jordan Peele to be able to direct this for his first time, like, it really is inspiring. And this movie solidified that I'm watching anything that he puts out. And I really love what you mentioned about the atmosphere of this movie, because this is one of the primary films that have reinvented horror.
Yeah, the new renaissance now. I mean, and this
Exactly.
was Blumhouse.
Yeah, exactly.
That put this out.
Especially when we talk about heightened horror. And what do we mean by heightened horror? We mean atmosphere. We mean ideas like the sunken place, being utilized in stories. I love the sunken place. It really is a very innovative metaphor within the horror genre.
I was actually going to ask you about that. One thing,
Mhm.
I'm very interested in the sunken place and your thoughts, because the sunken place, for those who don't know, is when, there's that scene where the mother is using the tea to hypnotize the Chris character, and he's going down and down and down deeper in his conscience. And now socially, in our real world, that has been used for certain people in the public eye who feel a certain way, who are Black, and they feel a certain way politically,
Absolutely.
socially.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about the way that the sunken place has been utilized in real life?
It truly was beautiful. I think it's the way that horror films, like, it's gift to us.
Mm-hmm.
The way he used the sunken place was perfect, because for me, what the sunken place represents is this place that puts minorities in a box, right? You are lost in your own thoughts, and you have really no control over your own life, and how and you're really limited in your success,
right?
Especially with no access to resources, right? Chris is in his mind. He's stuck. He's constantly yelling, "Help, help, help," while somebody is manipulating his actual mind and his body.
Yeah.
That happens in life as well, I believe. Especially with this idea of, supremacy over minorities and stuff like that. I really do feel like this movie has allowed us to wake up and see the horrific reality. Why did Jordan Peele use Childish Gambino's, Redbone? Because he wants us to essentially stay woke, right? And to be able to open our eyes and see the living horror that we are all living out from a day-to-day basis.
Right.
The idea of the sunken place is essentially real, right? Because we have people who believe that whatever they do, they really can't move forward in life. If they call out for help, they're not going to get it. And it's because the privileged are able to manipulate government systems and society, education to prevent people from actually attaining freedom. Mm-hmm. That is what the sunken place represents, literally, figuratively, and physically within this story, especially because they try to take over his damn body.
Yeah, I think the sunken place represents ideology over morality. Especially with some of the people who have been, coming out and spouting their shit, especially this year with all the, the protesting going on. It's crazy. I mean, it's crazy to be on the internet these days, man. That's why I've tried, aside from all this, I've tried to cut it back, because that shit can be poison,
man, it's sad, bro. It's
very sad.
Yeah. Embarrassing, bro. It's embarrassing. It's sad to see. It's just sad to see where morality is at for some people. For me, I prioritize morality over everything, because I know politics when you have politics, what else do you have involved? Money.
Right.
Money. And money, like I've mentioned before, is the best of us and can be the worst of us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And most of the time with politics, when there's money involved, I mean, most people think about the money, man. I've had some conversations where people literally think, oh, well, I mean, I'll vote for this person because I get more money at the end of the year.
Because the economy will, you know,
Right,
go up
and
a
I'm
couple other points.
And
Yeah.
I'm thinking to myself, really? Really? Just because of the money? Like, is that all we prioritize? Come on now. Like, we're better
Well,
than that.
we have to
know by this point that money
right.
is the source of happiness, man.
Well, we have to
I've been poor my whole
acknowledge
life.
we have to acknowledge the importance of it, but the real question is, at what cost are we willing to cast our vote based on, you know, a promise of a better economy, you know, on what at what point are we going to say enough? And I know that's easier said than done, because the real world is rent, you know, especially like here in California. I mean, it's hard people are leaving, you know, people are leaving because they can't afford it. And I understand that, you know. I live in El Sereno, and there's a community of homeless people on the streets right outside my door, and it's really hard to look at, and it feels like no one's doing anything about it, and it's nuts, dude. So I feel like this has to be reworked and rerouted.
Yeah, the sequel to Get Out should literally be like homeowners telling, you know, their tenants to get out during a global pandemic. That should be the sequel to Get Out too, because that's exactly what's happening. It's so damn sad, man. Whenever you see somebody in need, you know, do anything you can to make them feel like they still are significant, you know, because you
no,
could
go
be
ahead.
in
I'm
that,
sorry.
you could be in that situation. You could truly be in that situation one day, and if nobody helps you, you know, I mean, I really do think it's a result of your own energy and what you've given to others. I really do feel like if you go across your entire life and you have the mentality of like, okay, what can I do for somebody to make them smile today, or happy, or feel like they have a friend, I really do feel like life only gets better from that starting point. So, you know, whatever you believe, just be a kind, decent person. And I really do feel the world will heal as a result of that. You know, Jordan Peele says, get out. It's true. Get out and go vote, man. Go make a difference. Even if you don't think it makes a difference, that action will not, you know, dissipate. You know, you're doing something. You know, be productive.
At the Electoral College, bro.
Yeah, I know. But if you have a huge collective, you know, something will happen. Something will happen.
I know. It's called rioters. We're a bunch of, you know, all the protestings. They're rioters.
Yeah, man. That's so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous, man. Come on,
bitch. That wouldn't we be on fire more than we are already?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
You know,
are you ready for the question? The movie question?
Yeah, I'm ready for the question.
All right. Well, then, stand by. Stand by. Horror movies, most effective showcase for racism. We obviously have different genres in film that have depicted racism. We have, you know, even romantic comedies, action films, pseudo comic book films like Django, documentaries. I mean, we have so many different types. But when you think of, I think it's Night of the Living Dead. Yes. Where it starred, you know, a black man who was being, like, they killed him at the very end. And like, fuck it, let's get. I don't care if he's a zombie or not. Yeah. Do you think that horror is possibly, and based on Get Out, is possibly the best depiction for racism in film?
I think it can be, but I think the best depiction of racism in film is actually when we document, you know, real history. You know, let me give you an example.
That's your catchphrase. That could be on that when we get merch for GOAT, it'll be your face, and over it it'll say, let me give you an example.
Let me give you an example. I'm sorry. It's because ever since I took an English class in what was it, 9th grade, it was really intense. So she always had to say, you need to make sure that in your essays you let us know when you're giving an example, okay? And I'm just like, oh, really? Okay.
Well, hey, man, think about how many YouTubers there are giving their opinions on shit like this, and they don't give an example. So you're good. You're good, dude.
Okay. So one example that I will give you is American History X with Edward Norton.
Yeah.
That was one of the films that I presented during quarantine with my family. And by the end of it, my brother, my mother, and my little brother were bawling at the very end of American History X, especially when you understand what happens at the very end. The whole movie is about racial tension. The main character is a neo-Nazi who has one of the best character developments I've ever seen in a film.
Insane, man. Insane.
Insane. It gives me chills. It gives me goosebumps. It's one of my favorite movies, and I think it is a mandatory watch for every student in film or, in class and, in general. I really do think
people should watch it. People
should watch it. The power of friendship, man. The power of friendship. It has no boundaries. It has, no skin color. And
it's horrifying, dude. That should be classified as a horror film at point.
Yeah. It is a very horrifying, hard movie to watch. But by the end, when you understand how love can conquer hatred, it's really insane. So that I don't know if it was based off of a book or something.
I think it might have been.
It's not a true story, but movies like that, I feel, present racism in the very best possible way. Another one would be 12 Years a Slave, which is actually a true story based off of a memoir. 12 Years a Slave is haunting and one of the most visceral movies I've ever watched. And actually a movie within the very first 30 minutes where I contemplated, maybe I should turn this off. It really did feel hard to watch. Steve McQueen is so brilliant at affecting our emotions, especially when he leaves scenes going longer than they're supposed to be going. One of my favorite scenes in that film is actually one of the hardest ones to watch. When Chiwetel Ejiofor is hanging on a noose on his tippy toes, just marching around trying to survive. And the scene stays on him for what? 2 minutes, 3 minutes? And you see kids in the back playing. That juxtaposition there is so difficult to watch.
Yeah.
And it really makes you question our inhumane behavior of the past and how we should constantly try to repair that damage. It may be unrepairable, but we should constantly work to repair it because that actually happened. And I love that film is able to do that. It's able to plaster something on the big screen and say, don't ever forget this. Learn from it, please. You know what I mean?
It's funny. I remember when that movie came out. I did not see it when it came out. I listened to the review by Spill.com at the time when they were still going. And 2 out of the 4 of them are black. Mm-hmm. And they were, I mean, it's a sad, really horrifying movie, but their review made me laugh so hard because they were saying some of the funniest stuff. Like, man, if I see Michael Fassbender, I'm whooping his ass. I'm whooping his ass. Paul Giamatti, because he had Saving Mr. Banks coming out right near it.
Yeah.
Like that hatred, that anger went into that review of theirs. It's like, man, I still didn't forgive him. Playing a Disney guy, I don't give a shit.
And I love that they can do that. I love that they can, take a movie that's so horrifying and make it funny, or their conversation about it to be funny, but still genuine, and still recognize the importance of it.
Chris Cox, who I actually did interview, and you can check that interview out. He was on that review, and he was quiet for like 10 minutes. 10 minutes, he didn't say anything, and he's white, and he comes in, he's like, I just want to say I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry. But yeah, I completely agree. When it comes to American History X, I didn't like it when I first watched it, and it was for reasons that the movie was trying to get across, and I realized that later, because the reason I didn't like it was because Edward Norton was so good that I was getting pissed at the shit he was, especially the dinner scene.
Oh man,
when he's just going off, like he is going off. There's the interview scene when he's on the television and it just turns into something really bad, and I'm getting pissed while watching it. I'm like, man, fuck this movie. You know what I mean? And
So
but
good.
after
So
rewatching
brilliant.
it, or actually I haven't rewatched it, but after thinking about it over the years, I'm just like, man, I really got to rewatch that. That there's some really incredible stuff in
Oh
that, you
yeah,
know?
and I love the transition from black and white to color to distinguish what time we're in. Whether
And
it's the
also his
present,
thought
present
process.
or the future. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's a revolutionary movie, I think, and it just really emphasizes that hatred in itself is baggage and something that we really need to let go of. It's such an emotion that it's an emotion that really wastes our time, really, and I think, and we don't maximize our true selves when we just focus on hate, especially when it comes from such an ignorant place,
Yeah.
you know. And also the idea that racism is taught. When you see that movie, you see where his spread of racism,
Where it came from.
where it came from,
Right.
comes from his father. Where did that come from? Probably came from his mother.
Right.
Where did she learn it from? Probably from her cousin or something. Like it's developed. It's something that's taught, and if you're taught it, it's also something that can be reworked. And you know,
Yeah.
it's just it's such a crazy film. But when it's done in horror movies as well, I greatly appreciate it too. Like
Yeah.
Night of the Living Dead. When you watch that film, a zombie doesn't take out our main character. It's really another human being, and it's like, well, yeah, that's reasonable, and that is a horrifying reality, something that's even scarier than zombies. And I'm really happy that George Romero was very he was always he
I
was
mean,
like an activist within his
people
films,
would call him woke these days if he made that movie nowadays.
Yeah.
People would call him that is a classic back then because it's back then. But now, if he made that shit, that dude's woke.
Yeah.
Get the
Yeah.
get out.
Exactly.
One thing I wanted to bring up real quick until we get to our next film, the ending. I love the ending. His friend comes to save him. You get the audience.
Yep.
Everyone's freaked out. Oh, the cop. Oh my God, don't do it. Don't. And then it's his friend who comes in. I was like, everyone collectively was like, they woo, woo, like
Yeah, man.
right then and there. He was like,
T.S.
thank God.
Mother effing A.
Man, I told you not to go to the house, man.
I told you not to go to the house, bruh. How are you not scared of this?
Even the racists in the audience were like, oh, thank God.
Yeah, woo, we got to check ourselves. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, shit, that was something else.
I honestly love that ending. To be honest, when I first experienced it, I really did think it was going to turn out the way that the alternate ending is, where
Yeah.
it's an actual cop that shows up and
I would have
Chris
been
is
pissed
blamed
if that
for the
had been the
murders.
case, honestly. I would have been mad.
I would have been really upset too.
Yeah.
And I think that's why they chose the alternative, because we've seen that ending in real life all the time. We've seen it so many times. We needed to win in this one. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
we needed good to win in this one.
It ends on a very horrific, optimistic note.
Mm-hmm.
Of like, not, I mean, I don't know if it's progress because it's his black friend coming. It's not an actual cop coming to listen to what's going on.
Right.
But it does a sense of unity, right?
Mm-hmm.
At the very end, like, we have your back, right?
Yes.
That was
Yes.
the audience coming in to help him at that point. And I thought that was a really beautiful part because everyone clapped. Everyone, it was like a Marvel movie all of a sudden. You know what I mean? It was the portal scene in Endgame.
Yeah, I completely agree. If the movie ended with the alternative ending with Chris going to prison, do you think it would have been a bad movie, or do you think it would have been a movie with an excellent idea that you just didn't like?
Well, it would have been a good movie until that point, in my opinion, because I feel like that's an obvious way to end it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that is an obvious, and that would get the crowds probably to boo. The alternate to that got them to cheer. So the alternate to the cheering would be booing.
Right.
So people would get pissed and okay, sure, you had some social commentary, but this guy had literally been through the worst case scenario of dating a girl. He's probably not going to ever date a white woman again.
Yeah.
So no, I would have been upset with that ending. And I
Mm-hmm.
think it was a very good call for him to go with the good ending.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah.
And I think with us concluding on Get Out, I think we both can agree that Get Out is one of the finest pieces of social commentary put to screen.
Yeah. It's crazy that it was it the same year as Black Panther? 2017, right?
I think Black Panther was 2018.
It was the next year. That's right. That's right. Within a year of each other, I mean, come on. That's what I'm talking about.
That is what I'm talking about. That's cinema, man. That's cinema.
Us, I mean us, you know. We can talk about us some other time. The GOAT Podcast is proof you don't have to look any further for movie news, reviews, trailer reactions, or special discussions. Subscribe, get notified about what's going on, and I promise you'll be entertained by our daily content on YouTube. If you want more, we're on Twitter at GOAT Film Podcast, Instagram The GOAT Podcast, and the GOAT Movie Group on Facebook. Get connected with us, see what's happening, and make sure to love it while you're doing so.